So what's happened recently is Hillary Clinton went in for a 3.5-hour, we don't call it an interrogation, that's not true, a talking to, questioning by the FBI. That was on Saturday morning. And then there were a lot of contacts with Loretta Lynch. Now, obviously, before that, on Friday, we covered Bill Clinton coincidentally meeting Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General, on the tarmac in Phoenix. And then a story came out later in the weekend from the New York Times about how Hillary Clinton is considering keeping Lynch as her Attorney General. Boy, that is not subtle. That's not at all subtle. Now, if you've heard the James Comey story and what he decided about whether to indict her or not, you must be wondering, why are you bothering to tell me this backstory? It's already clear what's happened, right? Well, I'm going to make it very, very clear here, and we're going to talk about the consequences. But I want you to understand something. They didn't know. All this time that the establishment and everybody in the smug press was telling you about, like, oh, of course there's going to be no indictment, don't be ridiculous. No, even the Clintons didn't know. Up until the very last moment, they were in a panic. Lynch, don't worry. Hey, if Comey says indict, you don't have to indict. Remember, we got your back. I'll make you Attorney General. Don't worry. I mean, I sent Bill Clinton over there to talk to you. It's all good. It's all. Remember, Lynch, who's your friend and who's not your friend. So they didn't know. So you got to give James Comey credit. No one really knew. He kept his cards very close to the vest, and presumably they didn't make a decision until after they talked to her for 3.5 hours. So when he stepped up to the podium on Tuesday morning to announce whether Hillary Clinton was going to get indicted or not, everybody, definitely including the Clinton team, was on pins and needles because he could have gone either way. So here's what he began to say.
110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received. 8 of those chains contained information that was top secret at the time they were sent. 36 of those chains contained secret information at the time, and 8 contained confidential information at the time. That's the lowest level of classification. It could also be that some of the additional work-related emails that we've recovered were among those deleted as personal by her lawyers when they reviewed and sorted her emails for production in late 2014. It's also likely that there are other work-related emails that they did not produce to state and that we did not find elsewhere and that are now gone because they deleted all emails they did not produce to state, and the lawyers then cleaned their devices in such a way as to preclude complete forensic recovery. Although we don't have complete visibility because we're not able to fully reconstruct the electronic record of that sorting, we believe our investigation has been sufficient to give us reasonable confidence there was no intentional misconduct in connection with that sorting effort.
Now, that was a lot of, boy, she really did it, to lead to the conclusion of no intentional misconduct, which, of course, will be dispositive in this case, as you'll see a little bit later in his press conference. So that's the director of the FBI telling you, when she said all along there were no emails that were sent that were already classified, only some that had been classified after the fact. That turns out not to be true. Now, I don't blame the press on that one because we really didn't have that information. We really didn't have it. Believe me, if I had it, I would have shared it with you. I didn't see any press with that info. But apparently, the FBI knew, and Hillary Clinton and her entire team knew. No, they had shared classified information, including 8 chains with top secret information before the fact. They knew that they were classified. They knew they were top secret, and they used this unprotected system anyway. So that's absolutely clear. And then she deleted some emails. Did that have damaging stuff on it? Well, the FBI director just told you, I don't know. We never recovered them. We recovered thousands, he said, that they thought they had deleted, and they said had nothing to do with business. It turns out they did have to do with business. State Department business. So that's another wrongdoing. But is it enough for a criminal indictment? The answer seems to be no. So now let me give you, and there's some dispute about that as well. That dispute might be irrelevant given that the FBI has made their decision, but you should know the full story. But let me give you more of the story. Here's more from Comey.
Now let me tell you what we found. Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information. For example, 7 email chains concern matters that were classified at the top secret special access program at the time they were sent and received. Those chains involve Secretary Clinton both sending emails about those matters and receiving emails about those same matters. There is evidence to support a conclusion that any reasonable person in Secretary Clinton's position or in the position of those with whom she was corresponding about those matters should have known that an unclassified system was no place for that conversation.
Well, that doesn't sound good, right? Well, it's not a matter of sounding good. It's a matter of whether the FBI is going to decide that she had criminal intent, which is relevant in this case. But here we have yet another fact that is irrelevant, certainly for the primary purposes. It might be used in general election against her, but it is not the end-all, be-all in that she's not indicted. If she was indicted, then we have a political calamity, probably the likes of which we've never seen before. That does not happen, but what we do have is a string of things that the FBI director is saying that she did terribly wrong. Here's another.
We do assess that hostile actors gained access to the private commercial email accounts of people with whom Secretary Clinton was in regular contact from her personal account. We also assess that Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email domain was both known by a large number of people and readily apparent. She also used her personal email extensively while outside the United States, including sending and receiving work-related emails in the territory of sophisticated adversaries. Given that combination of factors, we assess it is possible that hostile actors gained access to Secretary Clinton's personal email account. So that's what we found.
So the Clinton team has been saying all along, no, there's no way anybody could have hacked in. Well, we recently found out through some leaked documents that, in fact, they were very concerned that people had hacked into that system. They had to shut down the State Department computers to try to address a hack that had happened to Hillary Clinton's private email server that then endangered the State Department servers. It was a mess. Now we find out through James Comey that when she was abroad, she was using the unprotected servers. So when you're abroad, that opens you up to even easier hacking by the Russians, the Chinese, anyone else. I mean, she was the Secretary of State. She traveled often. It was so reckless of her to use that to make sure that, I know why she did it. I probably largely agree with James Comey about her intent. I don't think she did it like, I will do this to make sure that the Russians can get their hands on it. But she did it because of her own political reasons. She didn't want anybody to be able to access her business or her personal emails. So she took these reckless, by even the FBI director's admission, reckless risks to make sure that she was more politically protected, although it left our country less protected. So that's the reality. But does that equal a charge? Well, finally, Comey lays it out very clearly here.
Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case.
No reasonable prosecutor would bring that case. So they explain here the Bureau did not find clearly intentional and willful mishandling of classified information or vast quantities of material or indications of disloyalty to the U.S. or efforts to obstruct justice. Many will disagree if that was the right standard or not, and there's a good debate to be had about that. But what is most important for today's news is that debate is largely moot at this point. She is not indicted. It's over. So the primary is over. Hillary Clinton now has more pledged delegates, more superdelegates. There is no indictment. Hillary Clinton is the official nominee of the Democratic Party. Now, you might like that news, you might hate that news, but it ain't going to change the news. That's the news. So now what you want to do with that going forward is up to you. And obviously, the mainstream press will tell you that's it. Your choices are Trump and Hillary Clinton. Others will tell you that you have far more choices, including other parties. My take on it is that we cover the news no matter what it is. You like it, you don't like it, we give it to you. The mainstream press doesn't like a lot of the things we cover. So we'll continue to cover third-party candidates. And so I know they hate that. Well, sorry. Our job is to inform the American public. If you don't think your job is to inform them, that's a sad day for you. They'll soon leave you as they are today. So, but in keeping with that same pledge, to be honest with you guys, there's nothing left in terms of the primaries. There's no one is going to relitigate this issue. Comey look, let's also keep it real on this front, was the number 2 guy under John Ashcroft. When he did act out of principle and refused to carry out an order by the Bush administration because it was unconstitutional. Give him credit for that. We gave him more than credit. President Obama made him the head of the FBI under a Democratic administration. But don't forget that at the same time, he was number 2 under John Ashcroft. He is deeply, deeply Republican. So if any bias were to exist, it would be against her, not for her. So there's no conceivable reason why James Comey would have said, okay, I'm going to decide to give Hillary Clinton a break. Now, you might vehemently disagree with his decision, and I think that there are even legal grounds to disagree with his decision. But the decision has been made. So there's not going to be any more proceedings. There's nothing beyond this. So now, if you are a progressive and you don't want Donald Trump to win, cross your fingers. Because you have your nominee, and I suppose the establishment is giddy over it today. You've got Hillary Clinton, the no change candidate. You've got Donald Trump, the disastrous change candidate. And now those are our 2 choices. Now, again, that's not really that true. There are other choices. Libertarian Party is polling at 10%, amazing. Green Party is polling 4%, 6%, amazing. But the 2 major parties have given us no change and disastrous change as our 2 options. So that is where we stand. And the establishment might think that that was an excellent outcome for them because they think you're not going to look into the abyss and vote for Donald Trump, and that you will instead come back to Hillary Clinton and they will be right back in business. Well, if those assumptions are correct, well, they'll win another one this time around. If they're incorrect, they better be careful what they wish for because they apparently got it today. Now, I don't want Trump being president, so I'm scared to death of the consequences of this. Will Trump use some of these findings against her? Of course he will. Who wouldn't use it? Well, I know who wouldn't use it. Bernie Sanders. So he never attacked her on this issue. And now the smugness of the Democratic Party officials were like, see, he shouldn't have attacked her on it. There was no indictment. At the same time, we find out that all the things that they'd been saying were not true. She did send information that was classified, including top secret. Not afterwards did we find out or reclassify that. Some we did. But it turns out, no, a lot of them were at the time. At the time. Yes, she did recklessly endanger our security. Yes, she did do it for political reasons. Yes, she did cover it up. So congratulations, Democratic Party establishment. They couldn't prove that she had criminal intent. Oh, you've got to feel so good about that. At the same time, I'm telling you for the last time here, it is over. And you want to keep on fighting and saying, oh, we're going to get Bernie Sanders? Have at it, Hoss. I'm not here to make the decision for you. But I'll tell you right now, very likely, very soon, Bernie Sanders will endorse her. So just know that is the very likely outcome. Now, that doesn't mean that this is the end of everything and that's it. The revolution is over. No, the revolution is not about electoral politics. It's a small part of it. It continues. We still fight for those same ideas. The ideas that we want to install, like cleaning up our electoral process overall, systemic change, getting money out of politics, have nothing to do with this indictment. So on that front, there is no question that we go forward.